The morning started like any other on Space Station Alpha 7. Commander Sarah Chen was drinking her coffee and reading reports when the alarms began screaming. Red lights flashed across every screen in the command center. Her officers rushed to their stations, fingers flying over keyboards. "Commander," shouted Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. "We have an unknown contact. It's big, really big." Sarah set down her coffee and walked to the main display. What she saw made her blood run cold. A massive ship hung in space above Earth. It was black as night and covered in strange markings. The ship was easily 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built. "How did it get so close without us detecting it?" Sarah asked. "Unknown, ma'am. It just appeared. No jump signature, no engine trails. 1 second space was empty, the next second it was there." Sarah had been in the military for 20 years. She had seen combat in the Mars colonies and commanded ships in deep space. But she had never seen anything like this. The alien ship looked ancient and powerful. Scars covered its hull like battle wounds from 1,000 wars. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," called the communications officer. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered and changed. An alien face appeared. Sarah tried not to show her shock. The creature had 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows across its head. Its skin was gray and covered in small scales. When it spoke, mechanical words came from the speakers. "I am Ambassador Zelthar of the Galactic Hegemony. I wish to speak with your leaders." Sarah stepped forward. "I am Commander Chen of Earth Defense Force. What do you want?" The alien's 6 eyes focused on her. "You will arrange a meeting. Your highest officials must hear what I have to say. Refuse, and your species will face consequences." The transmission cut off. Sarah stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to her communications officer. "Get me the president. Now." 2 hours later, the station's main conference room was packed. President Martinez sat at the head of the table. Around him were military leaders, scientists, and politicians from around the world. Everyone looked nervous. First contact with aliens was supposed to be a moment of celebration. This felt more like a funeral. The doors opened and Ambassador Zelthar walked in. He was tall, maybe 7 feet, and moved with liquid grace. His gray uniform was simple but elegant. Behind him came 2 guards carrying strange weapons. "Humans," Zelthar said, as he took a seat. "Your species has been watched for 127 of your years. We know about your wars, your technology, your expansion to other worlds." President Martinez leaned forward. "We're honored to meet you, Ambassador. Humanity has always hoped to find other intelligent life." Zelthar's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Honor? Hope? These words mean nothing. I am here to deliver facts." He activated a small device. Holographic images filled the air above the table. Star maps showed Earth and the 17 worlds humans had colonized. Red markers appeared around. "Several planets. Your expansion violates Galactic Law 447C. No species may claim more than 5 worlds without council permission. You now hold 17 inhabited planets and continue to build more colonies." General Morrison, Earth's top military commander, spoke up. "We didn't know about any galactic law. No one ever told us." "Ignorance is not an excuse," Zelthar replied coldly. "The Council has made its decision. You will immediately cease all colonial expansion. Furthermore, you will abandon 3 of your current worlds." The room erupted in angry voices. President Martinez slammed his hand on the table for silence. "Which worlds?" he asked quietly. "Kepler 442b, Ross 128b, and Gliese 667c. These planets will be redistributed to more suitable species. You have 24 hours to begin evacuation." Commander Chen felt her hands clench into fists. Kepler 442b was her home. She had been born there, along with 200 million other people. The thought of abandoning it made her sick. "Those worlds have billions of people living on them," President Martinez said. "We can't just evacuate them in 24 hours." "That is your problem to solve." Zelthar stood up. "The Council's patience is not unlimited. Your species shows dangerous aggressive tendencies. Perhaps losing a few worlds will teach you humility. Dr. Yamamoto, Earth's chief scientist, raised her hand. May I ask about this council? How many species belong to it? 4,738 species recognize council authority. Your compliance will make it 4,739. And if we refuse? Asked Cho. General Morrison. Zelthar's 6 eyes fixed on the general. The hegemony fleet has pacified over 600 rebellious species. Your primitive weapons would be no match for our technology. Compliance is your only option. The alien ambassador walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. You have 1 rotation of your planet to respond. Choose wisely. After the aliens left, the room stayed silent for a long time. Finally, President Martinez spoke. Options? General Morrison was the first to answer. Military resistance would be suicide. Their ship alone could probably destroy every space station we have. What about negotiation? Suggested Dr. Yamamoto. Maybe we can convince them to let us keep our colonies. Commander Chen shook her head. Did you see his face when he talked about pacifying rebellious species? This isn't a negotiation, it's an ultimatum. President Martinez rubbed his temples. How many people would we have to evacuate? Nearly 2 billion across the 3 worlds, answered Admiral Brooks, the head of colonial transport. Even with every ship we have, it would take months. And they're giving us 24 hours, added General Morrison. The discussion went on for hours. Some argued for compliance. Others wanted to try negotiation. A few suggested hiding the colonies and hoping the aliens would lose interest. Commander Chen listened to it all, feeling angrier by the minute. Finally, she stood up. Permission to speak freely, sir? President Martinez nodded. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old wars on Earth. She said the worst thing about bullies was that they never stopped with just one victim. Give them what they want and they'll just demand more next time. This isn't some schoolyard bully, Commander, said Dr. Yamamoto. These aliens have advanced technology in thousands of worlds. So did the British Empire, Chen replied. So did Nazi Germany. So did every empire that ever thought it could push people around forever. They all had the same problem. They never learned when to stop. General Morrison frowned. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we send them a message they'll understand. Not with words, but with actions. President Martinez leaned back in his chair. Go on. They think we're primitive. They think we'll roll over and show our bellies like scared dogs. What if we prove them wrong? Commander, Admiral Brooks said carefully, their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Our best weapons might not even scratch their hulls. Chen smiled grimly. Maybe, but they made one big mistake. They told us exactly where to find them. The president looked around the table. I want options, real options. Can we fight them? Admiral Brooks pulled up tactical displays. We have 847 warships total. Most are patrol boats and transports. Maybe 200 are real combat vessels. Their single ship could probably destroy half our fleet, added General Morrison. What about our new technology? Asked Dr. Yamamoto. The quantum drives, the fusion weapons. Untested in real combat, Brooks replied. We've been building ships to explore space, not fight wars. Commander Chen walked to the display showing Earth's military assets. What if fighting isn't about having the best weapons? What if it's about having the will to use what you have? Explain, President Martinez said. They've been conquering species for thousands of years. They're used to enemies who think like them, who follow rules, who surrender when the odds are bad. What if we don't play by their rules? General Morrison nodded slowly. Asymmetric warfare. Hit-and-run tactics. Make them pay for every system they take. More than that, Chen continued, make them understand that conquering humanity means fighting every single human. Make it cost more than they're willing to pay. The room fell quiet again. Everyone knew what she was suggesting. It meant war against an enemy that could probably wipe out all human life. It meant risking everything humanity had built. President Martinez looked around the table one more time. All in favor of sending Ambassador Zelthar our answer? Every hand went up. Then let's write a message the Galactic Council will never forget. The next 6 hours were spent crafting humanity's response. They called in linguists, historians, and poets. The message needed to be clear in any language and culture. It needed to speak for every human who had ever lived. When it was finished, Commander Chen read it aloud. To the Galactic Council and all who threaten humanity's children, we are the descendants of those who crossed oceans in wooden boats, who conquered the sky with metal wings, who reached for the stars with ships of steel and dreams. We have never bowed to tyrants, and we will not start now. You demand we abandon our worlds and our people. We refuse. You threaten us with your fleets and your weapons. We are not impressed. Come to our worlds if you dare, and learn why humanity has survived every challenge the universe has thrown at us. We will fight for every planet, every moon, every rock where humans live. And if you destroy us, you will remember forever that you had to destroy us. We would not yield. The message was broadcast on every frequency humans knew. It was sent to every colony, every ship, every outpost, and it was transmitted directly to the Galactic Council's capital, along with the coordinates of Earth itself. Commander Chen watched the transmission go out from the station's observation deck. Earth hung below them, blue and white and beautiful. Somewhere up there, alien ships were probably planning their attack. Think they'll really come? Asked Lieutenant Torres, joining her at the window. Chen smiled. I hope so. It's time someone taught them that the universe has room for more than one apex predator. The die was cast. Humanity had made its choice. Now they would live with the consequences, whatever they might be. But they would face them as free beings, not as slaves to an alien empire. The war for humanity's future was about to begin. The emergency meeting began 3 hours after humanity's message reached the Galactic Council. Deep beneath the Swiss mountains, in a bunker that could survive nuclear war, Earth's leaders gathered around a massive table. Holographic displays showed every human colony, every ship, every military base scattered across 43 light-years of space. President Martinez looked tired. He had not slept since the alien ambassador left. Around the table sat the most powerful people on Earth and her colonies. Prime Minister Chen from the Asian Federation, Chancellor Schmidt from the European Union, President Jackson from the North American states, General Morrison from Global Defense Command. Report, Martinez said simply. Admiral Brooks activated the central display. Total human military assets, 847 ships of all classes. Combat-ready vessels 203. Colonial Marine Corps, 200,000 active personnel. Orbital defense platforms, 96 installations protecting our 17 worlds. What? About the aliens? Asked Chancellor Schmidt. The display changed to show what little intelligence they had gathered. One confirmed vessel in our space, length, approximately 2 kilometers, mass, unknown, weapons, unknown. The ship appeared without any detectable drive signature. Prime Minister Chen leaned forward. What does that tell us about their technology? Dr. Yamamoto answered from her position at the science station. Either they have mastered space-folding technology, or they can manipulate gravity itself. Both possibilities suggest science centuries beyond our current understanding. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Everyone understood what that meant. Humanity was about to fight an enemy with technology they could barely comprehend. Sir? Interrupted Lieutenant Torres from the communication station. We're receiving responses to our broadcast from the colonies. Put them through. The first message came from Governor Walsh on Kepler 4 and 42b. His weathered face appeared on screen, broadcasting from the colonial capital of New Geneva. Mr. President, we've received your message and the alien ultimatum. The people of Kepler 442b stand with Earth. We will not abandon our homes. If they want this world, they'll have to take it from our cold, dead hands. More messages followed. From Ross 128b, where Governor Martinez declared that the colony's 15 million inhabitants would fight to the last man. From Gliese 667c, where the colonial militia was already mobilizing. From every human world, the response was the same. Defiance. The last message came from Captain Reynolds aboard the exploration vessel Pioneer, currently surveying a system near the galactic rim. Command, this is Pioneer. We're 200 light years from home, but we're coming back. Every human ship out here is turning around. Whatever happens, we face it together. President Martinez felt something stir in his chest. Pride, maybe, or hope. Thank you all. Begin immediate preparations for siege conditions. This is no longer a colonial expansion. This is a fight for survival. The display changed again, showing Earth's industrial capacity. Orbital shipyards above Luna, Mars, and Europa worked around the clock building civilian vessels. But war required different ships. How fast can we retool for military production? Martinez asked. Admiral Brooks consulted his tablet. With full mobilization, we could have the first new warships rolling out in 6 weeks. But they'll be using existing designs, patrol cruisers and system defense boats. Not good enough, said General Morrison. We need something that can hurt. They're ships. Dr. Yamamoto stood up. There might be a way. Our intelligence analysis of their vessel shows massive size but relatively slow movement. They're built for overwhelming firepower, not maneuverability. Continue. What if we don't try to match their technology? What if we go the opposite direction? Small, fast ships designed for hit-and-run attacks. Admiral Brooks shook his head. Small ships can't carry weapons powerful enough to penetrate advanced alien armor. They don't need to, Dr. Yamamoto replied. They just need to get close enough. She activated a tactical simulation. Kinetic impact. Physics works the same everywhere in the universe. A ship traveling at high speed carries enormous kinetic energy. Even if their shields stop energy weapons, they still have to deal with conservation of momentum. The room went quiet as everyone understood what she was suggesting. Ramming attacks, whispered Chancellor Schmidt. You're talking about suicide missions. I'm talking about effectiveness, Dr. Yamamoto corrected. One small ship accelerating to 10% light speed carries the kinetic energy of a nuclear weapon. Get close enough and even the most advanced armor becomes irrelevant. President Martinez rubbed his forehead. We're seriously discussing building ships designed to crash into alien vessels. It worked for the Japanese in World War II, General Morrison said quietly. Kamikaze attacks were terrifyingly effective because no one expected them. Those pilots died, Prime Minister Chen pointed out. Yes, Admiral Brooks replied. But their sacrifice saved thousands of other lives, and there's no guarantee our pilots would die. If they can punch through at the right angle, they might be able to eject before impact. The debate continued for hours. Some argued that kamikaze tactics were barbaric. Others insisted they might be humanity's only chance. In the end, it was Commander Chen who settled the argument. She had been quiet through most of the discussion, studying tactical displays and ship specifications. Finally, she stood up. Permission to speak, sir? Go ahead, Commander. My father served in the Colonial Marines during the Mars Uprising. He used to tell me that war isn't about having the best equipment. It's about being willing to do whatever it takes to protect what matters. She walked to the display showing human space. Those aliens think they know us. They think we're just another primitive species that will surrender when faced with superior technology. They're wrong. Chen touched a control, and the display zoomed in on Kepler 442b. That planet down there, it's not just a colony to me, it's home. 200 million people live there. They have families, dreams, hopes for the future. The aliens want to throw all of that away like it means nothing. She turned to face the room. I volunteer to command the 1st Kamikaze Squadron, and I guarantee you'll have more volunteers than ships. The room erupted in arguments. Some called her crazy. Others admired her courage. But President Martinez just nodded slowly. Very well. Dr. Yamamoto, begin immediate development of kinetic attack vessels. Admiral Brooks, start recruiting volunteers. But I want escape pods and ejection systems on every ship. We're not throwing away lives unnecessarily. Yes, sir. The next phase of the meeting focused on strategy. If humanity was going to fight, they needed to be smart about it. Their technology gives them advantages, General Morrison said, studying the tactical displays. But it also creates weaknesses. They've been conquering primitive species for thousands of years. They're used to overwhelming technological superiority. Meaning? Asked Chancellor Schmidt. Meaning they probably don't know how to fight a guerrilla war. Hit-and-run tactics. Asymmetric warfare. Make them come to us, then hit them when they're not expecting it. Admiral Brooks brought up fleet deployment charts. We should concentrate our forces at Kepler 442b. It's the most heavily populated of the 3 worlds they want. Make them pay a heavy price for it. No, Commander Chen said, firmly. That's what they'll expect. We should spread our forces across all 3 systems, make them fight for every world, and while they're busy conquering planets, we hit their supply lines. What supply lines? Asked Dr. Yamamoto. We don't know where they're coming from. Chen smiled grimly. Then we follow them home. The plan that emerged was audacious and probably insane. Humanity would fight a defensive war across 3 star systems while simultaneously launching deep strike missions into alien space. They would use every advantage they could find, superior knowledge of local space, willingness to take casualties, and the kind of tactical flexibility that only desperation could inspire. One more thing, President Martinez said as the meeting wound down. We need to send a message to our people. Something that explains what we're doing and why. A call. To arms? Suggested General Morrison. More than that, the President replied. A declaration of principles. Something that tells the galaxy who we are and what we stand for. They spent another 2 hours crafting the proclamation. It needed to be something that would inspire humans and terrify their enemies. When they finished, President Martinez read it aloud. Citizens of humanity, wherever you may be among the stars, today we face a choice that will define our species for all time. An alien power has demanded our submission. They want us to abandon our homes, surrender our freedom, and accept their rule. We say no. We are the children of Earth, but we are no longer bound by one world. We have spread across the galaxy because it is our nature to explore, to grow, to reach for something better. No alien empire will take that from us. To the Galactic Council we say this. You mistake our youth for weakness. You see our small numbers and think us helpless. You are wrong. We are the descendants of survivors. Every human alive today carries the genes of ancestors who refused to give up when the odds were impossible. We have faced ice ages and plagues. We have survived world wars and natural disasters. We have climbed out of caves and reached for the stars. And we have never, ever bowed to tyrants. You want a war? You shall have one. But know this. When you attack humanity, you do not fight an army or a government. You fight every man, woman, and child who calls themselves human. We will resist you on every world, in every system, with every weapon we can build or steal or improvise. And when this war is over, when the last shots have been fired and the dead have been counted, the galaxy will know that humanity cannot be conquered. We can be killed, but we cannot be broken. We can be defeated, but we will never surrender. Come to our worlds if you dare. You will find us ready. The proclamation was broadcast to every human settlement in the galaxy. It was translated into hundreds of languages and beamed toward the Galactic Council's capital. And it was carved into metal plates that were sealed in vaults on every human world, so that future generations would know what choice their ancestors had made. Commander Chen watched the transmission go out from the command center. In a few hours it would reach alien space. The Galactic Council would know that humanity had chosen war over slavery. Think they'll be surprised? Asked Lieutenant Torres. Chen shrugged. Probably. Most species would have negotiated or surrendered by now. They're not used to dealing with humans. And you think that gives us an advantage? I think it gives us a chance, Chen replied. Sometimes that's all you need. Outside the bunker, Earth continued its slow rotation. In orbital shipyards, engineers worked frantically to retool production lines for weapons of war. On 17 worlds, colonial militias drilled with whatever weapons they could find. In deep space, exploration vessels turned around and began the long journey home. Humanity was preparing for the fight of its life. Win or lose, the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days after humanity's proclamation reached the Galactic Council, the Hegemony fleet appeared at Kepler 442b. Fleet Commander HFY stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue and green world turn slowly below. His tactical display showed 18 massive dreadnoughts arranged in perfect formation, enough firepower to crack a planet. "Any response from the surface?" he asked his communications officer. "Nothing, sir. No surrender signal, no evacuation requests. They're completely silent." HFY's mandibles clicked in irritation. After 2,000 years of military service, he had conquered 47 worlds. Every time the pattern was the same. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, accept submission. The humans were breaking protocol. "Sir," called his sensor. "Operator. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV. Multiple ships approaching from the outer system." The tactical display updated. 37 human vessels were moving toward his fleet. HFY studied their approach vector and felt a moment of confusion. They were too small to be a real threat. Light cruisers and destroyers mostly. Why weren't they running? "Battle stations," he ordered, more from procedure than concern. "Signal the humans to retreat or be destroyed." Aboard the lead human ship UES Defiance, Captain Maria Torres studied the alien formation. Her small fleet looked pathetic compared to the massive alien vessels. Each enemy dreadnought was 3 times the size of her heavy cruiser and probably carried enough weapons to wipe out her entire squadron. "Ma'am," her tactical officer said quietly, "recommend we maintain distance and observe. Those ships could swat us like flies." Torres shook her head. "We're not here to win, Lieutenant. We're here to send a message." She opened fleet communications. "All ships, this is Defiance. Remember your training. We're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to hurt them. Make them remember that humans bite back." The human ships accelerated toward the Hegemony fleet. To HFY, it looked like madness. No rational commander would charge superior forces with such inferior ships. Perhaps the humans were even more primitive than intelligence reports suggested. "Open fire when they reach maximum range," he ordered. "Make it quick." The Hegemony weapons opened up at 200,000 kilometers. Particle beams and plasma bolts reached across space toward the approaching human ships. Torres watched the deadly light show and gave her final order. "All ships execute ramming speed protocol. Target their shield generators and drive systems. Make every shot count." What happened next would be studied by military historians for centuries. The human fleet didn't try to fight conventionally. Instead, they split up into individual vectors, each ship following its own attack plan. They jinked and rolled, using every piece of debris and asteroid for cover. The Hegemony fleet tried to maintain formation and fight a proper battle, but the humans refused to cooperate. They came from above and below, from unexpected angles, moving so erratically that targeting computers couldn't get a solid lock. "What are they doing?" HFY demanded, as human ships danced through his weapons. "Fire." "Unknown, sir. Their attack pattern is completely random. They're not following any recognized tactical doctrine. The first human ship to break through was the destroyer Indomitable. Captain James Hayes, a former atmospheric pilot, had spent his whole career flying through asteroid fields and solar storms. Dodging alien weapons was just another flight challenge. He pushed his engines past every safety limit, driving his ship toward the Hegemony flagship like a missile. His hull began to glow from radiation and heat, but he kept accelerating. "Sir," his engineering officer reported over the comm, "hull temperature is approaching critical. Radiation levels are lethal on decks 3 through 7. Emergency evacuation. To the forward sections," Hayes ordered. "All hands to escape pods. Prepare for impact." HFY watched in growing horror as the primitive ship drove straight toward his flagship's shield generator. No species was that insane. No crew would sacrifice themselves for such a small tactical advantage. The Indomitable hit the shields at nearly 10% of light speed. The kinetic energy transfer was enormous. Exotic matter fields flickered and failed as the human ship punched through like a bullet through paper. The destroyer carved a burning scar across the dreadnought's hull before breaking apart in a spectacular explosion. "Shields down to 40%, shouted HFY's damage control officer. multiple hull breaches on decks 5 through 12, but the Indomitable was just the beginning. 7 more human ships followed the same suicidal attack pattern. They came from different angles, targeting different systems, each one piloted by someone willing to die for the chance to hurt the enemy. The destroyer, relentless, rammed the second dreadnought's main gun. The cruiser Thunderbolt smashed into a shield generator. The corvette Stinger hit an engine assembly, sending the massive alien ship spinning out of formation. Zexhi's perfect battle line dissolved into chaos. His ships tried to rotate to bring weapons to bear, but the humans were everywhere. Small, fast, and absolutely fearless. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the humans are launching escape pods just before impact. Most of their crews are surviving." That made it worse somehow. The humans weren't throwing their lives away in mindless fury. They were calculated in their madness, precise in their sacrifice. They were willing to lose ships to hurt the enemy, but they tried to save their people when possible. The battle lasted 18 minutes. When it ended, 8 human ships had been destroyed and 15 more were heavily damaged. But 7 hegemony dreadnoughts drifted in space, their massive hulls torn open by kinetic impacts. "Sir," the communications officer said quietly, "the remaining human ships are withdrawing. Should we pursue?" Zexhi stared at the tactical display. His fleet still had numerical superiority, but 3 of his ships were completely crippled. The humans had lost a quarter of their force but had inflicted far more damage than should have been possible. "No," he said finally. "Let them go. Signal the council. Tell them the humans are more dangerous than expected." Captain Torres watched the alien fleet from the bridge of the Defiance. Her ship had taken heavy damage, but was still spaceworthy. Around her, the surviving human vessels limped away from the battle zone. "Think they got the message?" asked her executive officer. Torres smiled grimly. "Oh, they got it. Look at their formation." The hegemony ships were no longer in perfect parade order. They were spread out, weapons tracking in all directions like predators that had suddenly realized they might become prey. "Ma'am," the communications officer reported, "Admiral Chen wants to speak with you." The Admiral's face appeared on screen, transmitted from Earth. "Well done, Captain. How many did we lose?" 8 ships confirmed destroyed, ma'am, but most of the crews made it to escape pods. The aliens seemed surprised by our tactics. Good. Because this is just the beginning. Are you ready for Phase 2? Torres looked around her damaged bridge, at her exhausted crew, at the stars that no longer seemed quite as peaceful as they had that morning. "Ready and willing, Admiral. What are your orders?" The next few hours proved that the Battle of Kepler 442b was not an isolated incident. Similar attacks took place at Ross 128b and Gliese 606c. Human ships appeared without warning, struck hard, and disappeared before the aliens could respond effectively. On Gliese 606c, Commander Sarah Blake led 15 ships in a raid that destroyed 2 alien cruisers and crippled a third. Her tactic was different from Torres. She used the system's asteroid belt as cover, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. At Ross 128b, Captain David Park pioneered the technique that would become known as wolf pack attacks. His 12 ships worked together like hunters, isolating individual alien vessels and overwhelming them with concentrated ramming attacks. The reports reached the Galactic Council within hours. 3 separate fleets had been attacked by humans using identical suicidal tactics. The damage reports were shocking. The humans had lost 51 ships, but had destroyed or crippled 23 hegemony vessels. High Commander Vorth of the Crystalline Collective called an emergency session. "This is unprecedented. No species has ever used such tactics against us." "They're clearly insane," insisted Fleet Admiral Kextar of the hegemony. "No rational beings would sacrifice ships in such numbers." But Councillor Yathara of the Ethereal Union disagreed. "The tactical reports suggest otherwise. Their attacks were carefully coordinated. They targeted specific ship systems with precision. This was not madness, it was strategy." "Strategy?" Kextar's voice was incredulous. "They lost 50 ships. To destroy 23 of ours, that's a losing proposition. Is it? Yathara brought up the casualty figures. They lost 50 ships but saved most of their crews. We lost 23 ships and most of our crews went down with them. In terms of trained personnel, they won the exchange. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humans weren't just willing to sacrifice equipment, they were good at it. They had turned their technological disadvantage into a tactical advantage through sheer audacity. Furthermore, Yathara continued, consider the psychological impact. Our forces are now afraid to close with human ships. They know that any enemy vessel might be a guided missile rather than a conventional warship. High Commander Vorth considered this. What do you recommend? Overwhelming force. Send 10 fleets instead of 3. Surround their worlds and bombard them from a safe distance. Don't give them the chance to close to ramming range. That would require significant resources, Kextar pointed out. We have other wars to fight, other species to control. The alternative, Yathara said quietly, is to let word spread that a primitive species fought the hegemony to a standstill. How long before other subject worlds start wondering if they could do the same? Back on Earth, Admiral Chen studied the battle reports in her command bunker. The first engagements had gone better than expected, but she knew the aliens would adapt. They always did. Options? She asked her staff. The aliens will probably change tactics, General Morrison reported. Expect long-range bombardment, larger, fleets, different approach vectors. Good, Chen replied. Let them change. We'll change too. She activated the strategic display, showing human space and the positions of their fleets. Begin Phase 2. I want every shipyard in human space retooling for combat production. Start recruiting and training new crews. And begin development of the new ship designs. What kind of ships, ma'am? Asked Admiral Brooks. Chen smiled. Smaller ones, faster ones. Ships designed to get close to the enemy and make them pay for every system they take. Lieutenant Torres looked confused. Ma'am, with respect, we just proved that ramming attacks work. Why change tactics? Because tactics that work once become expected, Chen explained. The aliens are already adapting to our ramming ships. By the time they figure out how to counter them effectively, we'll be using something completely different. Such as? You'll see. But I promise you this. The next time the aliens come to human space, they're going to get a very different reception. The first blood of the war had been drawn. Humanity had proven that technological superiority didn't guarantee victory, but the real test was yet to come. The Galactic Council was ancient and powerful, and they wouldn't make the same mistakes twice. Chen looked at the star charts showing human space, 17 worlds holding nearly 2 billion people who had just discovered they were not alone in the universe. In a few months, those worlds might be under siege by fleets beyond imagination. But for now, humanity had bought time, and time was all they needed to prepare for the next round of the fight for their freedom. 6 months after the first battles, news of humanity's suicide tactics had spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. In the great chambers where representatives of 1,000 species gathered, emergency sessions convened daily to discuss the unprecedented human response. Counselor Vorth of the Crystalline Collective stood before the assembly, his crystalline form reflecting the chamber's lights in rainbow patterns. Fellow beings, we face a crisis unlike any in our recorded history. The humans have rejected our authority and proven capable of inflicting significant damage on hegemony forces. The chamber buzzed with translated voices as species debated in languages ranging from harmonic tones to electromagnetic pulses. Ambassador Kelnix of the Aquatic Federation raised a tentacle. Surely this is temporary madness. No species can maintain such irrational behavior indefinitely. The tactical reports suggest otherwise, replied Counselor Yathara. Their attacks show increasing sophistication. They are learning from each engagement. On Earth, Admiral Chen had spent those same 6 months preparing for the next phase of the war. The orbital shipyards above Luna worked day and night, their construction bays filled with vessels unlike anything humanity had built before. Status. Report, she requested from her command center deep beneath Geneva. Admiral Brooks consulted his displays. Production is ahead of schedule. We've completed 437 Hornet-class fighters, 120 Wasp-class interceptors, and 63 Yellowjacket bombers. The new ships were radical departures from traditional human designs. Small, fast, and heavily automated, they required crews of only 5 to 10 people. Each one was designed with a single purpose: to get close enough to enemy ships to deliver kinetic strikes. "What about the new tactic trials?" Chen asked. General Morrison activated a tactical display. "Promising results. The swarm protocols allow individual ship commanders to operate independently while maintaining overall coordination. It's like watching a school of fish respond to predators." Dr. Yamamoto looked up from her engineering reports. "The quantum entanglement communication system is operational. Each ship can instantly coordinate with every other ship regardless of distance or jamming." Chen nodded. The humans had learned from their first encounters with alien technology. If they couldn't match the enemy's weapons, they would surpass them in coordination and tactics. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Torres announced from the communication station. "Incoming message from the Kepler system. Captain Martinez reports enemy fleet movement." The main display showed a tactical plot of the Kepler 442b system. Red dots indicated hegemony vessels, far more than before. "Count?" Chen asked. 200 ships, ma'am. Mixed classes, but mostly heavy cruisers and dreadnoughts." Chen studied the display. The aliens had learned from their previous encounters. Instead of small fleets expecting easy victories, they were bringing overwhelming force. "Begin Operation Swarm. Signal all commands. This is not a drill." Across human space, the response was immediate. On 17 worlds, colonial militias took up defensive positions. In orbital shipyards, workers cleared the construction bays as combat fleets prepared to launch. In deep space, exploration vessels and merchant ships converged on predetermined rally points. But the largest response came from Earth itself. The new ships that had been under construction for 6 months began launching in unprecedented numbers. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands. Fleet Commander Zexhai commanded the hegemony force approaching Kepler 442b. After his previous encounter with human tactics, he had requested massive reinforcement. 200 ships should be enough to overwhelm any suicidal attacks. "Sir," his sensor operator reported, detecting multiple contacts emerging from the planet's shadow. "Estimate: 500 vessels." Zexhai felt his mandibles click in surprise. "Confirmed count?" "Sir, contact numbers are still climbing. Current estimate is 800 ships." "No, sir, contact count is over 1,000 and still rising." The fleet commander stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The humans had more than doubled their fleet size in 6 months. Where had they found the resources to build so many ships? Size classification of enemy vessels? "Small, sir. Mostly destroyer and frigate class. Many appear to be single-seat fighters." Zexhai relaxed slightly. Fighters posed minimal threat to capital ships. Even in large numbers, they lacked the firepower to penetrate heavy armor. Standard engagement protocol: maintain formation and eliminate them with long-range fire. He would soon learn that the humans had no intention of following standard engagement protocols. Admiral Chen watched the developing battle from her command center. Real-time feeds from quantum entanglement communicators showed her exactly what was happening light years away. "Signal from Captain Martinez aboard the Terran Pride," Torres reported. "Enemy fleet is maintaining tight formation. They're trying to fight a conventional battle." "Perfect," Chen replied. "Execute Pattern Delta." The order went out instantly to every human ship in the system. What happened next would redefine space combat for generations. The human fleet exploded apart like a firework. Instead of maintaining formation, every ship began following its own vector, its own mission, its own tactical plan. To the aliens, it looked like complete chaos. "Sir," Zexhai's tactical officer reported with confusion, "the enemy formation has completely dispersed. Individual ships are approaching from multiple vectors. Impossible. No fleet can coordinate hundreds of independent maneuvers. But the humans weren't trying to coordinate in any way the aliens understood. Each ship, captain had been given a simple mission: hurt the enemy. How they accomplished that mission was left to their individual judgment. The result was unlike anything in the history of galactic warfare. Human ships came from above and below, from port and starboard, from directions that military computers had never been programmed to expect. Some attacked in groups, overwhelming individual alien vessels. Others struck alone, hitting and running before the enemy could respond. Captain Lisa Park commanded the Hornet-class fighter Stinger. Her ship was only 50 meters long and carried a crew of 5, but she had spent months training for this moment. Enemy. Cruiser at bearing 090, her tactical officer announced. Shields are down from previous attacks. Take us in, Park ordered. Emergency acceleration. The Stinger shot forward like its namesake, accelerating past safe limits toward the massive alien ship. Park's crew was pressed into their acceleration couches as the fighter's engines pushed them to nearly 15% of light speed. At the last moment, Park fired the ship's escape pods, then ejected herself. The unmanned Stinger continued its trajectory, striking the alien cruiser's engine assembly with devastating kinetic force. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield. The aliens had superior weapons, better shields, stronger hulls, but they had never faced an enemy that could coordinate 300 individual actions while making each ship's captain a law unto themselves. Sir, HFY's communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender demands from the humans. What? They're demanding that we surrender to them, sir. HFY's mandibles clicked in disbelief. The humans were outnumbered 2-1 and using ships barely larger than fighters. How could they possibly demand surrender? Then he looked at his tactical display and understood. 67 of his ships showed critical damage. 23 more had been destroyed entirely. The humans had lost over 200 vessels, but they kept coming like an endless swarm of insects. Sir, his executive officer said quietly, recommend immediate withdrawal. Our losses are approaching 30%. HFY stared at the display showing hundreds of human ships converging on his remaining vessels. Each one was piloted by someone willing to trade their ship for damage to his fleet. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. Signal general retreat, he ordered. All ships to jump coordinates Zeta 79. The surviving hegemony vessels fled the system, leaving behind the wreckage of nearly 90 ships. The humans had lost 312 vessels, but they had won something more valuable than any tactical victory. Word of the Battle of Ross 128 spread through the Galactic Council within hours. For the first time in recorded history, a hegemony fleet had been forced to retreat by inferior forces. In the council chambers, the debate was fierce. This cannot continue, insisted Admiral Kepler. If word spreads that humans can defeat our fleets, every subject species will revolt. Perhaps, suggested Councillor Yathara, we should consider negotiation. The humans have proven they will not submit to conventional conquest. Negotiation? Kektar's voice was outraged. With primitives who use suicide tactics? Primitives who just destroyed 90 of your ships? Yathara replied coolly. Perhaps it is time to reconsider who is truly primitive. High Commander Vorth called for order. The question before us is simple. Do we escalate this conflict further, or do we seek diplomatic solutions? If we negotiate with the humans, Kektar argued, every species in the galaxy will think they can challenge us. And if we continue losing fleets to them, Yathara countered, every species in the galaxy will know they can challenge us. Back on Earth, Admiral Chen studied the casualty reports. The humans had paid a heavy price for their victory, but they had proven something important. Technological superiority could be overcome by tactical innovation and sheer determination. Ma'am, Admiral Brooks reported, production is accelerating. We should have 2,000 new ships ready within 60 days. And recruitment? Volunteers? Are coming forward faster than we can train them. The victory at Ross 128 has inspired people throughout human space. Chen nodded. The war was far from over, but humanity had crossed a crucial threshold. They were no longer just defending themselves. They were proving that humans could not be conquered by conventional means. What about our deep reconnaissance missions, she asked. General Morrison consulted his classified reports. Progress is promising. 3 of our scout ships have successfully penetrated alien space. We're beginning to map their supply routes and staging areas. Chen smiled grimly. The aliens had made the mistake of treating this as a conventional conquest. They thought they could defeat humanity by capturing specific worlds and forcing surrender. They didn't understand that humans fought differently. Every ship was a weapon. Every crew was willing to sacrifice their vessel for the chance to hurt the enemy. And most importantly, humanity was learning to take the fight to alien space itself. Begin Phase 3, she ordered. It's time to show the Galactic Council that humans can play offense as well as defense. Lieutenant Torres looked up from her station. Ma'am, what are your orders regarding prisoners? Treat them according to Earth conventions. Medical care, proper food, communication with their families if possible. We're not fighting this war to become monsters. The lieutenant nodded. It was typical of Admiral Chen, never losing sight of humanity's values even in the middle of total war. As reports continued to flow in from across human space, one thing became clear. The Galactic Council had awakened something they didn't understand. Humanity had tasted victory, and they were hungry for more. The war was entering a new phase, and the galaxy would never be the same. 1 year after the first hegemony ultimatum, Ambassador Zelthar returned to Earth. This time he came not as a conqueror delivering demands, but as a diplomat seeking terms. His ship approached slowly, broadcasting peace signals on every frequency. Humans monitored. The meeting took place aboard Terran Station, humanity's newest orbital facility. Unlike the cramped conference room where they had first met, this station was a monument to human engineering. Massive and bristling with weapons, it orbited Earth like a technological moon. Around it drifted the wreckage of alien ships, trophies that Admiral Chen had insisted remain as permanent reminders. President Martinez sat at the head of the negotiations table, flanked by Admiral Chen, General Morrison, and the leaders of 17 human worlds. Across from them, Zelthar sat with a much smaller delegation. His 6 eyes avoided direct contact with the humans, and his usual arrogance had been replaced by careful diplomacy. Ambassador, President Martinez began, welcome back to Earth. Zelthar's mandibles clicked nervously. President Martinez, I bring greetings from the Galactic Council and Authority to negotiate on their behalf. Negotiate what exactly? Admiral Chen asked. Her voice carried the steel that had become legendary among human forces. Last time you were here, you demanded our surrender. Are you here to surrender to us? The Council recognizes that previous misunderstandings may have escalated unnecessarily. We are prepared to offer your species full membership in the galactic community. The human delegation exchanged glances. They had expected many things from this meeting, but not an immediate offer of membership. General Morrison leaned forward. What are the terms of this membership? Zelthar activated a holographic display showing human space. Your expansion will be limited to 12 additional systems beyond your current holdings. The Council considers this generous, given recent complications. Admiral Chen laughed, a sound that made Zelthar's plates rattle. Limited to 12 systems? Ambassador, I think you misunderstand our current situation. She activated her own display, showing human fleet positions. The data was staggering. In 18 months of constant production, humanity had built nearly 4,000 warships. More importantly, they had established shipyards in 7 new systems and were actively surveying 43 more worlds for colonization. Currently, we have colonies in 29 systems, with more being established every month. Our survey fleets have identified 61 additional worlds suitable for human habitation. We will be expanding to all of them. Zelthar's 6 eyes widened. The Council will not permit such aggressive expansion. The Council, President Martinez interrupted, will adapt to reality. We're not asking for permission, Ambassador. We're informing you of facts. Dr. Yamamoto, now Earth's chief diplomatic advisor, brought up casualty reports on the main display. In the past year, human forces have engaged hegemony fleets in 47 separate battles. We have lost 836 ships. You have lost 297 vessels. Those numbers prove nothing, Zelthar protested. Your losses are nearly 3 times ours. Are they? Admiral Chen activated a personnel display. We lost 836 ships but saved 78% of our crews through escape pod protocols. You lost 297 ships and most of your crews went down with them. In terms of trained personnel, we won every engagement. The mathematics were brutal and undeniable. Human ships were designed to be expendable, but human lives were not. The aliens built their vessels to last, but when they were destroyed, experienced crews died with them. Furthermore, General Morrison added, our production capacity continues to increase. Every month we launch more ships than you can afford to lose. Zelthar studied the displays showing human industrial output. Orbital shipyards around 17 worlds worked continuously. Asteroid mining operations fed raw materials to automated factories. The humans had turned their entire civilization into a war machine. Your tactics are, he searched for the right word, unsustainable. No species can maintain such losses indefinitely. You're right, Admiral Chen agreed, which is why we're not limiting ourselves to defensive operations anymore. She activated a new display showing the galaxy beyond human space. Red markers indicated hegemony supply routes, staging areas, and fleet bases. All of them had been mapped by human reconnaissance missions. 3 months ago, we began offensive operations. Captain Torres led a raid on your supply depot at Vega Prime. Captain Park destroyed a convoy carrying replacement parts for your dreadnoughts. Commander Blake eliminated an entire communications relay network in the Centauri sector. Zelthar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. You've been attacking civilian targets? Military infrastructure, General Morrison corrected. We follow the laws of war as established by Earth conventions. No attacks on purely civilian installations, proper treatment of prisoners, medical aid for wounded enemies. Unlike some species, Admiral Chen added pointedly, we don't threaten to relocate entire populations for refusing to submit. The ambassador fell silent for several minutes, consulting data files that his aide provided. When he spoke again, his voice had lost its diplomatic polish. What do you want from us? President Martinez leaned back in his chair. Recognition that humanity has the right to exist and expand as we see fit. An end to demands for tribute or submission. And most importantly, a guarantee that any attack on human colonies will be considered an act of war against all of humanity. Impossible. The Council will never accept such terms from a species barely 2 centuries old. Dr. Yamamoto activated another display, this one showing the political situation within the Galactic Council. According to our intelligence, 14 species have already withdrawn from Council membership citing budget concerns. 6 more have drastically reduced their military contributions. The Ethereal Union has publicly questioned whether the current conflict is worth the expense. The truth was becoming clear to everyone in the room. The war with humanity was bankrupting the Galactic Council. Every ship they lost to human rams represented decades of construction time and enormous resource investment. Every convoy destroyed by human raiders meant shortages throughout their empire. Your council rules through fear, Admiral Chen continued. Fear that rebellion is hopeless, that resistance is futile. We've proven that's not true. How long before other species start wondering if they could do the same thing? Zelthar's aide whispered something in his ear. The ambassador nodded reluctantly. The Council is prepared to recognize human sovereignty over your current colonies and limited expansion rights. All expansion rights, President Martinez corrected. Limited only by the requirement that we don't colonize worlds already inhabited by sentient species. And what guarantee do we have that you won't attack Council members? Admiral Chen smiled grimly. The same guarantee you gave us when you demanded our submission. None. But I'll tell you this. Humanity has no interest in conquering other species. We just want to be left alone to build our own civilization. The negotiations continued for 3 weeks. Every day brought new reports of human activities throughout the galaxy. Survey ships mapping new worlds, merchant vessels establishing trade routes, military patrols protecting human interests. The final agreement, known as the Terran Accords, was unlike any treaty in Galactic Council history. For the first time, a species had not only refused to submit to Council authority, but had dictated terms to the established galactic order. Under the Accords, humanity received unlimited expansion rights throughout unoccupied space. Human military vessels could patrol human territory without Council oversight. Any attack on human colonies would be considered an act of war. Most importantly, humanity was recognized as a sovereign power equal to any Council member. As Zelthar's ship prepared to depart Earth for the final time, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of Terran Station. The alien vessel looked smaller somehow, less threatening than it had 18 months ago. "Think they'll honor the agreement?" asked Lieutenant Torres, now promoted to commander and serving as Chen's aide. "For now," Chen replied. "They'll test us, occasionally probe for weaknesses, but they'll be careful about it." "And if they don't honor it?" Chen's smile was predatory. "Then they'll learn that this was just the first lesson. We've proven we can defend ourselves. Next time we'll prove we can take the fight to their homeworlds." Commander Torres studied the star charts showing human expansion. New colonies were being established every month. Survey fleets had already identified over 100 worlds suitable for human habitation. In a generation, humanity would be one of the major powers in the galaxy. "Ma'am, what happens now?" "Now we build," Chen replied. "We explore, we grow, we do what humans have always done. We reach for something better." She gestured toward the stars visible through the observation deck's transparent aluminum windows. "Our ancestors crossed oceans in wooden ships because they believed there was something worth finding on the other side. We crossed space in metal ships for the same reason. And what did we find? That the universe is full of bullies who mistake kindness for weakness. But we also found that we're stronger than we thought. We found that no one, alien or human, has the right to tell us where we can live or how we can grow." The commander nodded. It had been a costly lesson for both sides. Humanity had lost over 1,000 ships and nearly 10,000 lives. The Galactic Council had lost far more: ships, prestige, and the myth of invincibility that had kept their empire stable for millennia. What about the other species, the ones still under Council control? Chen considered this. Intelligence. Reports suggested that several species were reconsidering their relationship with the Council. The Aquatic Federation had quietly begun expanding their territory without requesting permission. The Crystalline Collective had stopped sending tribute ships. Even some hegemony client species were showing signs of independence. "That's up to them," she said finally. "We can't fight everyone's battles for them, but we've proven that the Council can be defied. That's worth something." As reports continued to flow in from across human space, a new picture emerged. Humanity was no longer an isolated species huddled around a single star. They were becoming a galactic power in their own right, with colonies spreading across dozens of systems and fleets patrolling vast regions of space. The Galactic Council had sent Earth a threat, demanding submission and the abandonment of their worlds. Earth had replied with a proclamation of battle, declaring that humanity would never bow to tyrants. The war that followed had lasted 18 months and changed the galaxy forever. It proved that technological superiority could be overcome by tactical innovation and unbreakable will. It showed that a species fighting for survival could defeat enemies who fought merely for conquest. Most importantly, it established humanity as the first species in galactic history to face down the Council and win. Admiral Chen remained on the observation deck long after Commander Torres left. Earth turned slowly below, blue and white and beautiful. It was the world that had given birth to a species stubborn enough to fight impossible odds and clever enough to win. "Think our descendants will understand what we did here?" she asked the empty room. The stars offered no answer, but Chen didn't need one. Somewhere out there, human ships were carrying her species ever outward, ever upward. They were exploring new worlds, building new colonies, and expanding the boundaries of human space. They were free. And that was worth any price they had paid to achieve it. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity could be killed, but it could never be conquered. The universe was vast enough for many apex predators, and humans had just proven they were one of them. The Galactic Council's age of absolute dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun.